hi, a very happy good evening. So this is Krishna Ma'am and we're talking about the story of life on earth, and that's biology. So thank you so much for joining my new beginning series. So today we are in lecture 2 of evolution. So I hope you guys are enjoying evolution. So evolution is on the whole a very interesting topic, because we have started off with a lot of interest and a lot of interest towards the topic as well. So we saw how the universe was formed, how the galaxy was formed, how the galaxy gave way to your solar system, and how the sun and its planets were formed, how on earth we formed the atmosphere, how did rain come, how did precipitation happen, and how did the first life come, what were the theories, how many theories were rejected, and what was the last theory that we all commonly agreed, right? So this is what we have been talking in evolution. Fine, well and good. So now we'll go forward from where we stopped. So we're going to take off from there. So we're going to talk about part 2 of evolution. So we're going to talk today about two things. So what is the evidence for evolution we have, and what is natural selection? So we're going to talk about these two concepts today. So that is all for today's lecture. Yes, Veda, very happy good evening. Thank you so much for joining my lecture today. So please do like, share and subscribe. Alright, so that is what we are going to do today. So before I talk about today's concept, so let's revise the previous concept so that you have a link between what I spoke on Friday and what I'm going to speak today, because it's been a long time. So because Monday I had my mentee, so we did not have a class, and we also had the weekend, so we did not meet. So to have a link between what I was talking and what I'll be talking today, so I'll give you a recap. So lecture 2 of evolution. So I hope you didn't forget this image. So when we say evolution, so this is what we see, right? So that is the change from a monkey's face to that of a man's face. So this is typically evolution for us. So I hope we are all in love with this thing. So that is why evolution seems interesting. But as such, evolution is very interesting. All right. So here we go. Yeah, so we are in lecture 2 of evolution now. So I'll give you a quick recap of how we started, and okay, so we are in the start of the chapter. So we were here, we are talking about the origin of life. Origin of life forms a theory. What were the theories that we have rejected, and finally what did we accept? So today we'll be talking about the evidence for evolution and what is a theory based on natural selection. Probably in the upcoming lectures I will talk to you about adaptive radiation, biological evolution, mechanism of evolution, and then we'll talk about 𝐕𝐴𝐺 principle. All right. Yes, W, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my session. So please do like, share and subscribe. So your chemistry sir isn't well, so once he's fine, so he'll come back. So I saw your message in Telegram, but I couldn't get back, and I'm really sorry. So very soon we'll have the chemistry class. All right. Yes. And finally we'll be talking about the evolution of man. So here we go. So giving you a quick recap, we start off with how the universe was formed, right? So evolution is the study of life forms on earth. So we started with how the universe was formed. So the universe was formed by the Big Bang theory. So the Big Bang theory was a physical expansion. So this is a collision unimaginable in physical terms. So Vishnupriya, yes, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my session. So I hope you're doing good. So please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. So Big Bang theory is the unimaginable explosion in terms of physical means. So that explosion gave way to your universe, right? So when the universe was formed, so you had clouds of dust and gases. So when the universe was formed, the gases condensed under gravity. So under gravity they condensed, and they formed your atmosphere. So sorry, they formed your galaxies, right? So galaxies are present inside the universe. So now on the surface of the earth, on the molten surface, so you have water vapor. So you have methane, you have ammonia, and you have your carbon dioxide. So all these were present on the earth's surface. So your water was split with the presence of the sun's rays into H2 plus O2. So this H2, which was lighter, this escaped into the outer space. So now your oxygen, it combined with another molecular of oxygen and it formed your O3, that was your ozone. So when ozone was formed, the temperature of the earth came down. So thus you had rain, that is precipitation fell as rain. The water vapor cooled down and it fell as rain on the earth. So this is how it all started. So we know how the earth came into picture and how it started with the universe and the galaxies. But how did the first life come into picture? So we were talking about a lot of theory, right? So we'll continue talking about those theories. So with the first theory that we started off with was your theory of panspermia. Theory about the origin of life. So the first theory that we started talking about was the theory of panspermia, right? So here they said we have units of life that is called as spores. So they came from outer space, right? So that is what gave birth to the first life. So we still do not believe this theory, but there are a group of early Greek thinkers who believe this theory. So that is the theory of panspermia. So next came the theory of spontaneous generation. So this theory of spontaneous generation, it said that life came from dead and decaying matter. So it said that life came from dead decaying matter. So next you have the other theory, so where Louis Pasteur came into picture. And he said that life comes from pre-existing cells. So when this theory was accepted, this was immediately rejected. So this was not accepted after that. However, our question of how the first line came into picture has not yet been addressed. So we have the next thing. So the next theory was the origin of chemical evolution. Okay, so before we go, I'll write it here. So the next theory was your chemical evolution. So this was given by your heparin and Haldane. So they said the first living molecule came from non-living molecule. So they said we have macromolecules which gave rise to living molecules. So we had inorganic macromolecules which gave rise to organic molecules, and these organic molecules formed your cell, which is the basic functional unit of life. So they said a chemical evolution preceded the biological evolution. So this was tested, or this was proved by Miller and Crookes experiments. So when this condition was proved, the temperature in the earth was very high and you had reduced atmospheric condition, you had volcanic eruption, you had water vapor and atmosphere, etc. So Miller recreated the same temperature or the conditions in the lab, and he found the formation of amino acids and sugars, thus proving that yes, chemical evolution preceded your biological evolution. So this is where we stopped on Friday's class. Yes ma'am, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for joining my lecture today. So please do like, share and subscribe. Thank you once again. So this is where we stop. So today from here we move on. We are going to talk about how did people actually take up evolution, in which form they understood evolution as. So evolution of life forms a theory. So we have different religions, right? So we Indians and the Americans do not have the same religion. Probably in India we have Christianity, but in America Christianity is dominant over the other religions, right? So if you talk about the Buddhist people, they have altogether a different book, they have altogether a different ceremony, etc. And if you talk about the Muslim community, so they have a different view, right? But when you consider everything, all the spiritual books or everything, it had three connotations. Connotations means opinions. So it had three opinions. What are the three opinions? So all living organisms we see today were created as such. Okay, so all living organism you see today, for example, if you see a hybrid variety, they said even that was created as such. We did not do anything, right? And the diversity was the same since creation and will be the same in future. They said initially if there were 20,000 ants, even now it was 20,000. Okay, so they said someone created the living organism, so we don't know who. So they all said that all living organisms we see today was created as such. For example, if you see an elephant, the elephant was created as such. If you see a giraffe, it was created as such. It is probably like someone threw them from the sky, right? This is an opinion, okay? So the diversity was the same since the beginning and it will be the same in future. So I don't think this is true because initially we had a lot of animals and after the human or the anthropogenic destruction, we have led to a lot of extinction of animals as well, right? And they also said the earth is about 4,000 years old. So these were different opinions that came from different religions and across different people in the globe. But we have the most heroic person here. So when you talk about evolution, so evolution does not go without talking about the hero of evolution. So the hero of our evolution is Charles Darwin. So he is known as the father of evolution. So yeah, like that. Yes, so not like that. For example, if you see the giraffe today, they said the giraffe was created as such. If you see the dinosaur was created as such. But we know giraffe initially was smaller in height and gradually it grew taller, right? So in that form. So here Charles Darwin is the hero of evolution. So he is called as the father of evolution. And you have many books which states Darwinian theory of evolution, and we still believe and we appreciate Darwin's theory, right? So this person, Charles Darwin, was a naturalist. He loved studying about nature and evolution. So he went on a journey in his ship called as HMS Beagle. Just like when we say ship, we all know Titanic without any doubt, right? So every fellow knows what is Titanic and what was the fate of Titanic. So all of us have seen the movie of Titanic, well and good. So similarly, there's a ship that is famous here, that is the ship of our hero, that is Charles Darwin. So that ship is your HMS Beagle, alright? So he gave us some conclusions. Being a scientist or being an environmentalist, he gave us some conclusions. All existing life forms share varying degree of similarity between themselves and the lives that existed millions of years ago. So what does this line mean? So today you see a dog and a cow in your road, right? The dog needs food, the cow needs food. The dog breathes air, the cow also breathes in air. So they have similarities though they are two different species. Yes, right. And they also share a similarity with the organisms that existed millions of years ago. So we know dinosaurs are not there today, but dinosaurs once existed, right? So dinosaur also looked for food, dinosaur also breathed for air, and it also looked for shelter. So we share some amount of similarity with the dinosaur as well. So that was his first conclusion. So all existing life forms, they share a varying degree of similarity among themselves and also in the lives that existed millions of years ago, right? Then the second conclusion that he gave was extinctions of different life forms and new forms of life arose at different periods of history. For example, today we are having extinction. We have an extinction of a lot of things. So today we have dinosaurs in the endangered list. So today we have Tasmanian tiger, which is already extinct. So we have a lot of organisms which are extinct in the current situation. And we also have organisms which have disappeared in the future. Like dinosaurs once lived, it is not there today, right? So this was the second conclusion that he gave. The third conclusion was the most important of all the three conclusions that Charles Darwin gave. The fitness of an individual or a population is based on the reproductive fitness. So whether a population is fit enough or not, it depends on its reproductive ability. So today I know about dinosaurs because I have seen the dinosaur population sustaining over a period of time, right? So only if the population lives generation after generation for people to see and study, that is how it is successful, right? So fitness of an individual or a population is based on the reproductive fitness. Did you understand these 3 points? Yes. The geological history of Earth closely correlates with the biological history of the Earth. For example, when I say Ice Age talks about the organisms that lived inside the colder regions. For example, your mammoth, the huge mammoth, right? So you would have seen, if you have seen Ice Age, so the mammoth, so there were only 2 mammoths left, right? So initially the male mammoth thought that he's the only one of its kind, but later he found the other one as well, right? So when you talk about the time scale of Earth, so it also talks about the biological history. In that era, these organisms lived, etc., right? Fine. So moving further, these were the 3 opinions that Charles Darwin gave. So now, what are the evidences for evolution? So you and I know dinosaurs existed. So how do we know dinosaurs existed? Have you ever seen a dinosaur live? Or did the dinosaur come in your dreams and tell you, hey, I existed so many years before? Did it happen so? So how do you believe that dinosaurs existed? How do you know giant animals existed? So at the start of agricultural civilization, so when man started his way of living, so we had the initial civilization as an agricultural civilization, where people thought you can grow crops, you can have domestic animals, and that is agriculture. When agriculture started, it was the agricultural civilization. So in the advent of agricultural civilization, so they found out that there were lions and tigers, which was 3 times the size of human. So it was much heavier and heftier than the humans. So a normal human, so probably I am less than the average height or something. But if you take a normal human, so let's say we all have seen Harry Potter, so you all know Hagrid, right? So imagine there was a lion or tiger 3 times Hagrid. That was the normal size of a lion or tiger. So how do I know this? So how did I know that the dinosaur existed? Yes, evidence. So just by the word of mouth, you and I cannot believe that something happened. So just by the word of mouth it passes, it is called as a gossip, or it is called as a rumor, right? Only if you have the actual evidence, science believes. So science is based on experimentation, and for every experimentation you need an evidence. Mendel's work was not recognized for a long time because he did not have an evidence. So evidence is very important in case of law and in case of science. Both go hand in hand. So when I tell you dinosaurs existed, it means people have discovered the fossil of the dinosaur. People have discovered the skeleton of the dinosaur. Yes, there are books about dinosaurs. We have seen dinosaurs in Jurassic Park and in your Godzilla. So we have seen such huge creatures, right? So that is not creativity, but it was there in some point of time. So that is how we came to know. So now, what are the evidences that we had? So we know there was an evidence of dinosaur. What kind of evidence did we have? So that is what we are going to talk now. Alright. So first evidence comes from the fossil. So what are fossils? So fossils are the skeletons, the remains of the animals present in the sediment of a layer. So that is called as a fossil. So the evidence from a fossil is called as paleontological evidence. So once again, for example, if I have to find a dinosaur skull, how will I find? I cannot find it in the shelf or in the block of some house, right? So sometimes if there is an archaeological site, if there is a very old site, if people are digging that site, deep under that they find the skeleton, so then that is a fossil, right? So the evidence from the fossil is called as paleontological evidence. So fossils are the ones that get the remainings of an organism that lived in that particular era when that particular sediment was formed. So in the rocks you have sediments, that is layers of sediments are there. So each layer takes some time to form. It does not form overnight. So if I find a fossil in a particular sediment, so it means that organism lived during the formation of that sediment. So that is called as your fossil, and the evidence from fossil is your paleontological evidence. Alright, so the first evidence that we have been talking about is the paleontological evidence. Number 2, the second evidence was the embryological support. So there was one person called as Ernst Haeckel. He said that all organisms during their embryonal development, they have a gill slit formation. So that is an evidence that where we came from. But this theory was overruled because in an adult mammal, in adult vertebrates, the gill slits are not formed. Okay, so this was overruled. So the embryological support theory is overruled. Now coming to the last theory, that is comparative anatomy and physiology. This shows similarities and differences. So what are the similarities and differences here? So we are going to talk about anatomy and morphology. So you know anatomy is the internal structure and morphology is the external structure, and it shows some similarities and differences. So we are going to see what kind of similarities and differences that it shows. Alright. So this is your fossil evidence. So this is your paleontological evidence. So are the first two clear? Can we talk about the third one? Can we talk about comparative anatomy and morphology? Yes, so when you talk about comparative anatomy and morphology, there are two types. First is divergent evolution. So what does divergent evolution say? What does divergent mean? So I have one point from here. If I move in this direction, it is called as divergent. So you were in your school, right? So all of you were in the same school, but then later in life you took to different directions. You all diverged in different directions. So is this divergent evolution. So in divergent evolution, you have the same structure, but the function is different. But you have different functions. So this is my divergent evolution. They have same structure developed in different directions, right? So the structures, since they are same, they are called as homologous structures and they have a common ancestor. If you look at the structure of the human hand, so we have a radius, we have humerus, we have radius ulna, we have carpus, metacarpus and phalanges, right? So this is how it is drawn here. But if you compare the limb of a dog, it is no different. Probably the size is different, but the arrangement is still the same. And if you see the limb of a bird, it is still the same. And look at the whale. The whale also has phalanges, carpus and metacarpus. So aren't the structures same? So they all came from a common ancestor, but the function they are using it today is different. The dog uses a limb for a different purpose, a human uses a limb for a different purpose. So function is different, but their origin is the same. So this is called as divergent evolution. Alright. So similarly, thorns of bougainvillea and tendrils of cucurbita, it almost looks the same. So their origin is the same, but the function in which they act is different. So this is called as divergent evolution. So I hope you're understanding. We are talking about the evidence of evolution. So there should be some evidence, right? So without evidence, how can you believe something? So we have three evidence. The first one is a paleontological evidence, right? So this is the evidence from the fossil fuel. So next you have evidence from the embryological support. But this was overruled. The third evidence comes from comparative anatomy and morphology. So under this you have two types. The first one is the divergent evolution, right? So the first one is called the divergent evolution. So what is the normal meaning of divergence? So from a common point you diverge. So the common point is the same structure, but the same structure has evolved to have different functions. Since the structures are same, so the structures are called as homologous structures, and homologous structures indicate a common ancestor. So since the structure is same, so we say that there was a common ancestor. So this is your divergent evolution, and the examples of divergent, yes, exactly, divergent means the origin is the same but the function is different. Absolutely right, W. Okay, so the examples of divergent evolution include the limbs of the dog, so limbs of humans, dogs and the whales. So the structure is the same but the function is different. So the other example is the thorns and tendrils. So thorns of bougainvillea, and you have tendrils of cucurbita. So they all show divergent evolution. The second type is your convergent evolution. So what is convergent? They converge at a same point. This is convergent. So they all meet at a common point. So here you have different structures but the function is the same. So there you had same structure but different functions. Here you have different structure but the same functions. One good example is the wings of your butterfly and the wings of the bird. So we know wings are only used for flying, that is flight. But the structure of wings in your butterfly and the structure of wings in your birds are two different structures, right? So this is called as convergent evolution. Yes, convergent means same function but different origin or different structure. Since the structure is different, they are called as analogous structures. So you have homologous structures and you have analogous structure. Clear? Yes, Mazara, because you understood, right? So yes, that is very good. So when you understand something, your confidence will increase, your interest will also increase. Yes, very good. So you know what is homologous structure now and you know what is analogous structure, right? Very good. So now we have more examples on this point. So here the wings of butterfly and the wings of birds and the flippers. If you see, in penguin we call it as flippers or fins. In fish also you call it as fin or flippers. The structure of both are different but the function is same, right? So you have the flippers of penguin and the fins of dolphin. They are having the same function but the structure is different. Then the eye of human and the eye of octopus, the structure is different but the function is vision. So these are analogous structures with the same function. So these are some of the examples. Alright, so once again we'll quickly talk about the example. So in case of divergent evolution, so we have same structure. So same structure is called as homologous structure. So homologous structure indicates that we have a common ancestor. But here the function is different. So example include, you have the limbs of man, dog and dolphin or the whale, and the whale, dolphin will not come here, it is whale. And in case of plant, you have the thorns and the tendrils. So thorns of bougainvillea and the tendrils of cucurbita are examples, right? Yes. So now we are going to convergent evolution. So in convergent evolution, the structures are different. So different structures are called as analogous structures. right? So analogous structures, but they have the same function. So the example include the wings of birds and butterfly. So birds have wings and butterflies have wings, and the function is same. They help in flying or flight. So then you have the flippers of flippers of the penguin and the dolphin. So the function is the same, that is, they help in their buoyancy or they help in the movement in water, but the structures are different. Then you have the eye of the human and the eye of the octopus. The structure is different, but the function is vision, right? So we are done with the evidence for evolution. So coming to the last topic, that is support for natural selection. So natural selection should also support the growth of a particular population. So that is what I am trying to say. So here we are going to discuss a case study. So this is called a moth. So it looks like a butterfly, but we call it as a moth. So you can see there are two types of moth. One is brown color, one is white color, right? So in England, this happened in England. So in England, when there were no industries means there was less pollution. When there is less pollution, you have the growth of lichens. Who are lichens? So lichens are the symbiotic relationship of your fungi and algae. When algae and fungi grow together in a beneficial way, that is lichens. So lichens are in a place where there is no pollution. So in England, when there were no industries and no pollution, these lichens were on the tree bark. Okay? Yes, moth is like a butterfly. This is a moth. It is not a complete butterfly, but it is called as a moth. Okay? Fine? Yes. So when in England, when there were no industries and no pollution, you had lichens on the tree bark. So now, if the moth goes and sits here, the white color is camouflaged. White color is not visible because the tree bark has mosses, and mosses and the white colored moth gets camouflaged because the lichens are also white in color. So it hides this part. Only this part is visible. So the predators or the birds will come and eat the brown moth. Right? So only the white moths survived happily because no one is disturbing them. So their population grew and expanded exponentially. Right? But after industries came up, so when industries were set up, pollution were high. When pollution is there, lichens will not be there. The tree bark got covered with dust and smoke. Right? But when the tree is dark with dust and soot, the white color moth is more visible. So now the birds can see the white color moth than the brown color moth because brown is dark. So the tree bark is also pretty dark. So they get camouflaged. So now the white moth is being eaten. So the brown moth's population survived. See, natural selection should also support evolution. So nature has selected here the white moth and here it has selected the dark moth. So this is how support for natural selection happens. Alright? Yes? Done? So now you understand why you have antibiotic resistant bacteria in your gut. So we have antibiotic resistant bacteria which do not die with antibiotic. They have grown resistant. They know how to overcome the situation, right? So this is all for today. So I'm done with whatever topic I'm supposed to teach you. So I have taught you the evidences for evolution and the support for natural selection. So probably we'll take 2 more lectures to finish evolution and then we'll have a Menti quiz, alright? So yes, so Vishal is here. Hello Vishal. Yes, a very happy good evening. So thank you so much for remembering and coming to my lecture. Yes, I'm doing very good. How are you? After a long time. So Vishal, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Yes, W, bye. Have a great weekend. So guys, if you genuinely like my way of teaching, so please do like, share and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching my lecture. So I will meet you on Friday at 4:15. So until then, yes, of course I wish you. So I will, of course I remember you. I will not forget you. I hope you're doing well. Yes, nice to meet you too, W. So thank you so much guys. So until Friday at 4:15. So this is me signing off. So have a great time. Bye and thank you.